Guys, midweek energy update. We've got kind of an interesting setup going on as we hit the midpoint of our week this week. Now, I will say Jupiter, the planet of blessings and success and growth and expansion and good fortune and wisdom and truth, is kind of a centerpiece of the way the energy is unfolding for us this week. We actually have a grand mutable cross setting up with Jupiter, the moon, the sun, and Saturn. And on one hand, this is suggesting a period perhaps of some rewards or maybe like reaping a harvest to some extent in terms of the work and effort that we've put into something up until this point in time. However, on the other hand, this energy can also cause us to get a bit carried away, maybe a little bit full of ourselves, maybe a little bit ahead of ourselves. And if we're not, careful and self-disciplined and quite deliberate in this energy, we can go from like the reward and successful outcomes of things to sort of like the consequence lesson sides of things pretty quickly. So, interesting the way that things are coming together for us this week. We have the exact Sun Jupiter square on Thursday. And, generally there could be some like big or significant things happening and playing out, conversations, information, things that we're finding out somehow, choices and decisions, lots to talk about, of course, with the Jupiter in the sign of Gemini emphasis. Let's get into our report of the day then. Let's look at everything that we've got going on out there, how it's all working, and what perhaps we can expect as we head towards the weekend. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Wednesday, September 11th, 2024. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the day where we are narrating the shift of the ages. If you guys stick with me till the end of this report, I've done a collective tarot reading for us today as well. I like to tap the energy field from more than one modality whenever I'm doing these energy overviews just to get an alternative energetic perspective on what's going on out there. So there could be some messages in there for you. We're going to do that at the end. We're going to start with the astrology at the beginning. I don't know. There could be some big things happening this week. There could be some turns of events going on. There could be some breakthroughs that we're making. There could be some things that have been like coming to a head, suddenly opening up. We could be overcoming something on an emotional level that has been creating a block to our progress or success. But themes of growth, expansion, opportunity, big news, things like progressing and moving forward in our favor, a broadened understanding, choices and decisions. These are all kind of where the energetic focus or like what might be manifesting in terms of where our focus is in our lives as we hit the midpoint of our week this week. There's a very strong mercurial influence going on. The planet Mercury rules both Gemini and Virgo. The sun this week is in the sign of Virgo. Mercury also in the sign of Virgo, his sign of rulership. And then Jupiter coming into the exact square with the sun on Thursday actually, and Mercury's other sign. Mercury rules two signs, and Mercury's other sign, the sign of Gemini. So Mercury is the messenger planet. Mercury is about ideas and thoughts and communication, short distance travel, things sort of going back and forth. It can also have to deal with transactions and deals and negotiations, like two sides of things, oppositions, polarities, but also like twins and partners. And interpersonal relationships and dynamics. And Mercury is now direct, and Mercury, like I said, has re-entered his sign of rulership, the sign of Virgo. And so as a result of Jupiter, the planet of expansion, in one of Mercury's signs coming into an exact activation, an exact hit, an exact square with the sun in the sign of Virgo, Mercury's other sign, and Mercury himself being in his sign, that is really emphasizing all of these themes having to do with Mercury himself and also Gemini energy and also Virgo energy. And just this combination generally will put the emphasis on all those things I just talked about, what we're talking about, what we're learning, what we're thinking, how our mind is working, any type of like classes or deals or negotiations. This is also, and we're going to talk about this, we have a grand cross setting up that is 4 planets in square to each other, 2 planets in opposition simultaneously, while Saturn is a 5-degree orb out of exact square. It's still like close enough that it counts, and we're probably like, there is probably just going to be something that goes on Wednesday that is like bringing us to a point where things are going to transition somehow or change, or we're going to decide, or there's going to be some opportunity presented or some type of significant information that's meaningful in the context of like what's happening next, or something that opens up for us, or as I said, like us coming to a point perhaps emotionally where we realize something or shift the way we're feeling in some type of a way that helps us to overcome some previous block or limitation that we had to our growth or progress. Like that's the way this is setting up. That's what it's looking like. That's why, okay, because of these particular sign placements and all this Mercury energy as well. And there is more involved in this, of course, that we're going to talk about as we get through this report. But just to kind of start things off, that is likely to be where the emphasis is. And I will also say Jupiter is the great benefic, blessings, good fortune, success. Successful outcomes are probable, okay, when we've got a strong Jupiterian influence, even by square. Even in the square aspect, Jupiter has a tendency of like producing like optimism and kind of like enthusiasm and exuberance, you know what I mean? And like good results, positive, productive growth and outcomes. However, a primary like hang up when we're dealing with a square to Jupiter, because squares, of course, are the most challenging and conflict-oriented aspects. They usually require some type of breakthrough. And that's why this Grand Cross energy that we're in is also significant. Mutable signs, the sign like modality that we have when we're talking about Gemini, Pisces, Sagittarius, and Virgo, these signs are about transition, flow, adaptation, like things starting as one thing and then changing into something else. This is not fixed energy. This is not energy that like initiates new things. It's about endings and transitions and going with the flow of things. And so we know that when we've got a Grand Cross, which that is a set, as I said, of 4 squares and 2 oppositions, and if squares require breakthrough in order to come to some type of resolution that moves things forward, then Grand Crosses are sort of like the ultimate kind of test. But the thing about Grand Crosses also is it's like once we make that breakthrough associated with that Grand Cross and those 4 planets in that particular dynamic, we gain a level of mastery over that previous circumstance. Like it is a formula for success, but it requires a massive effort, like a very worthy pursuit. Like we have to really give it all we've got to overcome that cross. But like once we do so, it's like we are released from the struggles associated with that and able to really take advantage of the higher octaves available when we master the energies of those planets, okay? And in the context of this particular Grand Cross that we've got going on, and I'm probably going to say this over and over and over again throughout this report, and so I'm telling you that now. The theme here, you know what I mean? Like the lesson that's being presented here is wisdom through experience applied. It is self-discipline. It is an ability to have patience. It is being very like careful and deliberate and like measured in our responses to things. And like it really all boils down to essentially like hard work paying off. But any type of shortcut or any type of just overly identifying with our ego, like self-aggrandizement, any type of like losing control or getting kind of just like whipped up in this like state of taking things overboard and stuff like that, that is when the Saturnian element of things presented here is likely to activate in the context of the karma that Saturn represents, or the limitations. Or the thing is also, Saturn is not operating right now in a way that is truly conducive to the benefits that are associated with the Saturnian energy. Saturn is all about foundations. It's all about form, structure, controlled, measured, precise, disciplined, focused, like the formation of things. And when we're talking about a Saturn, okay, number one, that is retrograde, little hummingbird just flew up. And number two, that is in the sign of Pisces. Saturn in Pisces, first of all, like Pisces is a sign, it's a water sign, and it's a 12th sign of the zodiac, and it has a lot to do with endings and like things sort of dissolving back into all that is, and it's this very sort of like intangible and undefinable energy, which is essentially kind of exactly the opposite of what Saturn is. So when we have Saturn in the sign of Pisces, a lot of times right there, the ability for Saturn to form and structure and manifest and lay foundations that are like grounded in the physical material world is going to be to some extent diminished. And then when we take Saturn and like put him retrograde as well, while we also have Pluto transiting through the last few minutes of the sign of Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, you know, finishing his Pluto Capricorn transit for the next 250 years, like there's just not a lot of like foundational energy and endurance and staying power when we're talking about the Saturnian force that's going on right now and that's playing out. So literally, like, if we want things to work, if we want them to be successful, if we want them to endure, if we want them to get off the ground, if we want them to turn into something, the more strategic, the more careful, the more precise, the more disciplined, the more also like, you know, determined and just focused, and the harder that the more effort, you know, the more effort that we put in, the greater the rewards and the outcomes are going to be, which seems like a pretty basic principle, you know what I mean? Like that generally is how it works, but that's not necessarily always how it works. Sometimes, you know, you find that you don't have to put in that much work to get a good outcome. That's not how this particular energy is manifesting. So if I could give one word of advice as we move through the week, things are likely to perhaps be looking a lot brighter than they were. Opportunities could be presenting themselves. There could be some important choices or decisions going on, but I'm thinking that the best approach is going to be to just be, you know, as careful and as like paying attention to detail and putting as much effort in as we can to make sure that we're doing everything right and we're dotting all our I's and crossing all our T's and everything like that. Because if we do that, even if it's not what we want to do, even if there's like an urge to rush ahead, like the more self-restraint that we can apply in these circumstances, the more successful the outcome is going to be. The more excess or carelessness that we approach situations with, the more likely we're going to have to, you know, relearn some lessons that are associated with whatever's going on. So successful outcomes likely if we're doing things right, okay? And it's probably very, very good energy this week with this Gemini Virgo situation going on, and with Saturn even over there in the sign of Pisces, and the moon transiting through Sagittarius. This is why this dynamic is setting up like this so strong. You know, if the moon was in a different part of the sky right now and wasn't going to come into the exact opposition with Jupiter, while Jupiter is in the, you know, basically exact square to the sun, and we've got Saturn right there just a couple of degrees out, it wouldn't be putting such an emphasis on this energy because it wouldn't be creating that mutable grand cross. But since that's not the case, and since this is how things are working, I often find that the moon is like synchronistically just happens to be wherever exactly it would need to be in order to make like the biggest impact in terms of like whatever random transit is going on at any point in time. So can't say that I'm exactly surprised to see the moon so involved in this particular Sun-Jupiter square. But honestly, I do think it's a good thing. I do think it's for the best. I do think a lot of people are going to be rewarded for, you know, past efforts in this energy, and we could really see some true breakthroughs in terms of us conquering aspects of our past or of our emotions or of our mind in a way, again, that leads to some type of release, growth, expansion, truth, higher knowing that like helps us out somehow moving forward. But yeah, probably good energy for if you got anything to do with sales, negotiations, like deals, making your case about something could go pretty well right now. As I said, you know, good news or good results is indicated here as long as we stay away. These are some more red flags in this energy. The moon in Sag opposite Jupiter in Gemini. We need to stay away from arrogance and self-righteousness for sure, because those can kind of have us shooting ourselves in the foot, okay? But it is a good day to, I'd say, win friends and influence people other than that, especially if you know what's going on and you're operating according to universe's playbook today, okay? So be very careful though to overcommit yourself, to overinvest, to overextend. That's another thing when we have the strong Jupiterian influence, especially by square, it really can make us feel very like filled up with energy and, you know, belief in ourselves and our ability to perform and do anything at any point in time. And sometimes we can just like go a little overboard. So we just want to be careful, and also like over speaking as well, like saying too much with this Mercury, Gemini, Virgo influence as well. Probably just, you know, something to keep a little bit in the back of our mind. Because of the square, you know, this could also present in terms or in the context of these choices or decisions that might be coming up. They could be some difficult choices and decisions, or more difficult conversations or realizations that were presented like this. But again, there's likely to be something positive that comes from it. But we want to be slow, deliberate, consider all sides, all options, all angles of things, be very adaptable in this mutable energy, applying wisdom through experience, keeping our mental frame also with the strong Jupiter influence and emphasis right now zoomed out, so that we're really considering or in consideration of the bigger picture when we're operating, and not allowing ourselves to maybe like get too focused on one little thing that really is kind of irrelevant in the greater story of what's unfolding right now, trying to keep our perspective, you know, and being honest also. Saturn and Jupiter in this square, like honesty, integrity, accountability, doing the right thing, even if it's the harder thing, that will pay off. That type of thing is supported in this energy. And self-discipline, you know, whenever we're dealing with Saturn, self-discipline is highly favored and really can function as sort of like a superpower in this type of energy. Okay, any tendency that is positive when exercised with restraint will work positively. Any tendency that is negative when allowed to operate in excess in this energy is likely to give the opposite. It's probably not going to work out that great, probably not going to produce the best results. This is a very polarized energy. Remember, we've got, I mean, we're in the mutable signs. A lot of the mutable sign energy has to do with polarity, specifically Gemini and Pisces, but Virgo is also ruled by Mercury, which is a planet that deals in polarities as well. So we're talking about kind of like a very polarized environment for the outcomes of things right now. If we let things get out of hand, the foundations are likely to crumble. If we take the time and put the effort in and really pay attention and really work hard and do what is right, even if it's not what's fun and easy, that is when we're likely to get the successful outcome. Things are probably going to grow bigger than we expected, and it is something that is likely probably to carry on into the future. As I said, there's an issue with endurance when we're dealing with Saturn retrograding through the sign, specifically the sign of Pisces. Saturn stabilizes and forms and lays foundations. Pisces erodes and washes things away and breaks things down. So there's an inherent issue there. It's like trying to build a foundation on quicksand, sort of. And then with Saturn retrograde, that is not, you know, the strongest expression of the manifestation potential associated with Saturnian energy as well. So we need to do things right if we want them to work, and especially work in our favor in this energy. The trick though, of course, with the moon specifically in Sagittarius, which is something else that I'm now going to reiterate, is to not allow ourselves to get carried away with things. Specifically, the problem with Jupiter is the great benefic. Jupiter, as I said, it's the Santa Claus planet. It brings luck, blessings, good fortune, planet of expansion, planet of wisdom, planet of truth, planet of freedom. However, there's no limits, okay? Jupiter, whereas Saturn controls and limits and restrains and wants like slow, gradual progress, Jupiter wants exponential growth. Jupiter has no boundaries. Jupiter has no limits. Jupiter is not contained. Jupiter will not be held back. And Jupiter is all about, you know, making things as big and as beautiful and as like truthful and like excited as possible. Okay, so when we've got a Jupiterian energy that is like a primary focus sometimes, and especially when we've got a Jupiter energy involved with the moon, because the moon is our emotions and they're like bouncing off each other, it can create sort of like a God complex in the sign of Sagittarius, you know what I mean? Like we can really feel like we can do it all. It can also be very know-it-all energy, and it can just cause us to get very carried away with the way that we're feeling. Now, I will say, in this energy of this day, like I do believe you probably can do it all. We are actually, because of the way this setup is going on, in my opinion, more capable of completing hard things, like rising to the challenge, as I said, like overcoming things that in other energies or scenarios would be just like more intimidating or more difficult for us to persevere through and overcome. Like this energy is not that. Like we just have an inherent ability today to do a lot of things, to do them well, like to be successful in our efforts. Like babies born in this energy on this day, like they really will be very like multi-talented and primed for some type of like success or stardom through their own efforts, though, through very hard work. The babies born on this day will a lot of them will achieve like very high levels of success, but it will be because they have like overcome some extreme like challenges in life. Whenever we see a grand cross that is setting up in the sky, it's like the rags to riches scenario, you know what I mean? Like that's the type of vibe. Like it presents like very challenging early conditions, but once we master those energies and break through, we can then attain the like highest octaves in the stability that a four-prong like situation cross can also provide. So that's what this is. And like I said, in the energy of this day, we really probably can do it all. We're really capable of doing things that, you know, maybe we normally wouldn't. As I said, the people born on this day will probably be capable of doing things that a lot of other people aren't. It's just the blueprint of the day. It's just the way this energy is setting up. However, this energy is going to pass, you know what I mean? It's going to wane. And as a result, you know, in that context or with that in consideration, we want to be careful what we are investing in, what we are committing to, right? What we are jumping into, how we are presenting ourselves, and our ability to, you know, we don't want to spread ourselves too thin. We don't want to promise something that we like can't deliver in the future just because we're feeling like we can do it all in this moment. Is a lot of words, I feel like, to say that kind of simple point. So just something to keep in mind, you know what I mean? And even like if you're hiring people and stuff in this energy as well, like keep that in mind too. A lot of people are just going to be feeling like they can do a lot more today than they might be able to like next Tuesday, but they actually can in this energy. So, you know, it's not like dishonest, it's just a little bit like overhyped. You know what I mean? And that's why, again, as I've been saying, we need to be careful about what we're choosing, what we're deciding, what we're investing in, because if we're doing it right, there's going to be very good outcomes. But if we're not, the longevity and the ability for whatever it is to turn into whatever it's presenting as in this energy is not great. Okay. So, you know, when you think about it and like put it all together, it does make sense. So that's why we need to be just more careful and wise and deliberate about things, and not self-aggrandized and not arrogant and not like manic about stuff, you know, and the opportunities and what we can do and how we can succeed. We just need to try to stay as grounded as possible in this energy, doing things right and acting with care and honesty and self-discipline. That's what promises our positive outcomes. So we are not rushing, we're paying attention to detail, and we're just not getting carried away. Saturn is our karmic lessons and our tests, and Saturn is obviously involved in this. So there you have it. And again, the emphasis on the choices and decisions. Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, opposite the moon in the sign of Sagittarius. Are we going to choose to properly apply restraint and get a successful outcome, or are we going to choose uncontrolled excess driven perhaps by some overblown emotions and have to deal with a harsh consequence or judgment, or things just that are like lacking grounding or stability or productivity somehow? I don't know, you guys. The choice is ours in this energy, and either way, it should be a learning experience, right? We've got Mercury ruling all this energy in the sign of Virgo, the sign of, you know, the teacher. Gemini is like the sign of the student. I feel like Virgo is more of the sign of the teacher. And it is also, I talked about this in my last video. Let's kind of switch gears a little bit and hit a different dimension of the Saturn Virgo Mercury energy. Really good week for cleaning, organization, like ordering things, reordering things, making plans, lists, schedules, paperwork, details, all types of communication, conversation, like busy work, tasks and stuff going on. Probably a very busy week generally. This is going to be just like a busy energy in terms especially of like, people coming and going and interpersonal communications and situations, messages, phone calls, emails, things to do, places to be, people to see, negotiations, like contracts, deals, again, like that type of stuff could be very relevant. There could also be, we are dealing with square energy. We are dealing with this grand cross, interpersonal difficulties that do go on, but choose your words wisely. Think before you speak and you will be fine. You will be victorious in whatever circumstance you come up against. This could also create a greater likelihood for arguments and debates. That's a very, Jupiter in the sign of Gemini likes to debate anyways when we square it with the sun in Virgo. And then Saturn over there also plus the moon. This is a very like argumentative debate, like devil's advocate type of energy that we've got going on. But the same rules apply here, you guys. Whoever puts in more work and more effort and is essentially just generally more prepared based on their own initiative and self-discipline, properly applies a restraint to whatever is going on, that will be the one who achieves a successful outcome here. This could also bring about, as I was saying, like good karma, reaping some rewards for some things, some lucky breaks going on, like fortunate happening, like earned, like long earned or long awaited rewards could definitely be coming through here. Like finally, you know what I mean? Like finally I am seeing some payoff from my efforts, maybe especially in terms, again, with Saturn, the past, like things that we've been working on or putting a lot of energy and effort into for a long period of time. Could be time to sort of like reap some of that harvest, achieve some type of reward or something as a result of effort and time well spent in the past. After all, the sun is in the sign of Virgo, which is the sign of the harvest, and it also has to do with finances. There could be, I'm going to talk about the macrocosm in a minute. I jotted a couple little last minute notes down about how this energy could just be playing out sort of on a world stage, but we do also have the sun at 20 degrees of Virgo on Wednesday. That Sabian symbol is a caravan of cars headed for the promised land. So headed in the right direction, you know what I mean? Things are going to work out for the best right now. There is a successful outcome that we're moving towards. We also have Saturn at 16 degrees of Pisces. In the quiet of his study, a creative individual experiences a flow of inspiration. And we have Jupiter at 21 degrees of Gemini, a tumultuous labor demonstration. So again, hard work pays off. Planets around, if you have planets around 20 degrees of mutable signs, you could be feeling this the most in terms of the choices, decisions, rewards or lessons that are presenting right now. In terms of how the collective energy is playing itself out, what might be unfolding on the macrocosm or world stage level, this to me is also representing, we are talking about this grand cross with this Mercury energy, Virgo, Gemini, Moon and Sagittarius. There's such a strong emphasis between the moon and Sag, Jupiter and Gemini, and also the sun and Virgo on the facts, information, truth, what's real. And then we have Saturn in the sign of Pisces, which is the illusion, the propaganda, the narrative, like the mind control, retrograde, and again, like transiting through Pisces. There could, like, as an outcome of like whatever we're learning or finding out or realizing personally in this energy on a collective level, this could be rippling out into some type of breakdown in old belief systems or mind control or some type of collective narrative, or just assisting or facilitating essentially the transition in the way that we are viewing and thinking about the world around us on a greater level. The control structures, Saturn, that have supported the frameworks of reality. We're talking about in the sign of Pisces. That is not reality. That is breaking down the foundations that have supported reality in the past, as we are being exposed to some type of like new truth or alternative perspective, or, you know, options, or like transition point or expanded perspective in the way that we're thinking about things, like broadening our mind, emphasis on the facts, emphasis on the details and the information and the truth, while simultaneously this breakdown in the belief systems that had supported our previous perception on the frameworks of reality. So when we're talking about the greater context of this channel, narrating the shift of the ages, this is another, you know, although not the most groundbreaking or significant like activation we've had along those lines of like moving us forward in our transition of ages lately, but this is another one that is playing a role, another like light code that's being activated, that is going to create a ripple that facilitates our paradigm shift right now, really our transition from the old world into the new world, by way of, again, some type of collective breakdown in belief systems that formed the structure of our relationship to reality, our perception of reality in the past. Okay, so a lot could be exposed during this period of time that functions along that pursuit. We're also, of course, talking about financial, transactional type of stuff with the Mercury Gemini energy. There could be money, business situations really involved in this somehow. Saturn also has to do with like big business and career and financial markets. There could definitely be like something about financial markets that happens somehow, or like economies or something like that that goes on, currency value, something like that with this energy. And also, of course, communication. There could be communication with Saturn there. There could be communication issues going on. There could be some interference. There could be some like blockages or something that have to be repaired or fixed, or there just could be some type of challenge that is presented in the context of the relay of information somehow. So wanted to mention that as well. But other than that, for the most part, things should be feeling a bit better this week than they did last week, for sure. And as I mentioned in my last video also, we are moving towards a really beautiful energy that we're going to have come in over the course of the next week or so. Venus in Libra is coming into a trine with Jupiter in Gemini. So Jupiter is going to feature prominently in our energy for a little while, which is going to bring some beauty and some goodness and some, you know, optimism and some things kind of feeling good and working in our favor a little bit into our lives over this next couple of days, or the next week, or the immediate future. So that's what I have to say today, you guys, about the astrology. Let's talk about the tarot for a second. Now, we've got the Five of Swords coming up. This could like be bringing up some type of like competition or some type of confrontation or some type of conflict that we've been in or involved in, or some type of mental conflict that we've sort of been struggling with internally. But we've also got the Judgment card, and we've also got the Two of Wands, which I think is interesting in the context of like these big choices or decisions, and this Jupiterian influence, this like wake up call energy, this like seeing the truth, this like expanded viewpoint and perspective thing that we've got going on. Like there's something about, or the tarot at least is describing to me, because we're talking about swords here. Swords is also mental energy. There could be some like mental conflict or some arguments or some, you know, harsh words, or just some like conflicts generally that we are like embroiled in, or that we've been dealing with, or that have been kind of like consuming our minds or our thoughts somehow. But this is saying like some type of wake up call, or some type of conclusion, or some type of higher understanding, or some type of generalized awakening, some type perhaps also of judgment. Saturn literally is the judge and the disciplinarian, and with the Jupiter, Gemini, Sun, Virgo energy going on, those are also choices and decisions coming to some type of judgment in the context of how we're going to move forward, what we're going to do next, the decision or the choice that we're going to make. There could be some mental conflicts. What I think is there could be some mental conflicts that maybe we've been dealing with over this past couple of weeks that we are gaining some type of higher insight into right now, that is actually putting us in the place where we can see where we're going, and we know what choice or decision that we kind of want to make in order to move ahead in a certain direction. On the back of the deck, it's so interesting also because look at this series of cards that we have coming out. We've got the Two of Pentacles, which is about juggling choices and decisions. We've got the Nine of Swords, which is about being really stressed out and worried about what to choose, what to decide, like having anxiety, not knowing what to do. We've got the Hermit, right? Going inside, like kind of going into hermit mode, seeking illumination, like trying to figure out what we should do, like not necessarily looking for answers externally, but kind of just looking for our own inner guidance and stuff like that. And then we've got the Queen of Swords, which is about arising at some type of truth, standing in the power of our truth, learning something that puts us in a state of self-empowerment. And then we've got the Magician, which is an ability to use everything at our disposal, all of our resources, all our abilities, all of our knowledge, all of our talents, alchemized into one in a way that puts us in a place of power and helps us to create and to manifest something. Okay, so like that progression. And then what we've got here, what came out in our actual reading was this Five of Swords, this mental conflict, or this conflict that is going on, but also some type of an awakening or some type of answer or information or opportunity or guidance, like higher knowing somehow that hits us, that takes us from the Five of Wands, a state of internalized conflict, to, or Five of Swords, sorry, to the Two of Wands, which is considering opportunities, considering options, considering outcomes, and being in a place, where that, when we're dealing with the Two of Pentacles, this is kind of like juggling things, not really knowing, what do I want to do, which side is, benefits and consequences, like weighing the pros and cons of things. But when we're dealing with the Two of Wands energy, to me, that's not so much at a state of like indecision, is like, what do I want to create though? Like, I'm not, trying to decide, and juggle what I should do. I feel confident and powerful in my ability to create an outcome right now that is aligned with my vision and sort of the possibilities of what could be, like literally holding the world in the palm of my hand. Again, this like moon in the sign of Sagittarius, opposite Jupiter and Gemini energy. Like, I have the confidence in my ability to create the outcome that I choose and that I decide. I'm not necessarily like caught in a state of the Two of Coins with the Nine of Swords, like really worried about whatever it is that I choose. Because Magician, I've come into a state of empowerment based on the knowledge that I've gained, based on what I've cut myself off from, essentially. So, I mean, if you're struggling, with a choice or a decision right now, this card is like literally verbatim saying that cutting yourself off from maybe other people's influence over your situation, really tuning in on like what your gut is telling you, or doing some very independent research or self-discovery or something like that, is going to lead to some truth that you realize, or some realization that actually puts you in a much greater state of self-empowerment and feeling like you have the ability to overcome or move forward in a situation. And on the flip side of that, resolving any mental conflict that was holding you back because of this realization. That is like an awakening, or perhaps even like a rebirth, okay? That puts us in a place of actively, consciously creating and choosing our desired outcome, and not feeling like I have to choose the right choice, or, everything is lost. So that is, I don't know. That's what those cards are saying to me, and maybe that is relevant to a couple of you guys out there. I'm going to grab one more card now, a synchronicity card, God, Spirit, Universe. What else do we need to know? What should we keep in mind? The no card just came out. So if you're thinking about a yes or no question right now, the answer to that might be no. Let's get a little message though that we can keep in mind as we hit the midpoint of the week and navigate this energy. And listen, it says wait. That is our advice for the day. And that's like what I've been emphasizing also. We need to be like patient, and we need to be careful about what we're doing right now. Even though things are opening up, they are moving forward, they are progressing, we just want to make sure we're doing it right. Wait on the Lord and he shall save thee. Proverbs 20:22. Relax, let go, and let God. Don't struggle to make things happen before they are ready to happen. Wait and be assured everything is working together for your good. Like, that's literally so perfect, the way that this energy is set up right now. Now is not the right time to advance. Wait in faith and expectancy of the very best. Know that when the time comes to advance, you will be directed to say and do the right things, which saying and doing the right things, the whole theme of this report today, whole vibe that we have going on. And at least we are all on that same page, I hope, by now, because it's just like it's permeating whatever messages are coming through today. So that's what I have to say today, you guys. I hope you liked it. If you did like it, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. Share it with your friends if you also think they would benefit from this type of astrology content. Leave me comments, you guys. Your feedback is so valuable to me. I genuinely appreciate, knowing what's going on with you. If you are having experiences that do line up with what I'm talking about in these videos, please let me know. Again, that's really valuable to me, and thank you guys so much for being here. If you want to know what's on this here whiteboard, I have a Facebook group linked in my description box below where I post those boards, and come back with me on Friday, you guys. We're gonna have a weekend report out. It'll be the last report of the week and the last report before we move into next week, which will be our full moon in Pisces, and we will have our first eclipse of the season. So we're closing out. It is actually, as I said in my last video, it's kind of a slow astrology week, but we do have this big hit of Jupiter going on right now, and there's going to be a lot more to talk about in the energy of Friday, and I will be here to talk about it. So you should be here too. You don't want to miss it. I will see you then, everybody, and have a beautiful midpoint of your week. And until next time, bye guys.